until 1992, and it's currently under repair. There's fresh grass they planted, and eventually they are doing a rededication ceremony for the memorial. Now, in the beginning, you would have noticed words. Those are some of the final words and sentences the accused said before they were executed. Their sentences and words are cut short to represent their lives that were cut short. All of those executed on charges of witchcraft were devout Puritans or religious in their own manner. None of them were witches. And that is the irony of Salem. Back then there were no witches. Today Salem is overrun with witches. And I'm sure the magistrates and the sheriff and everybody who lived back then and who was dealing with the trials is rolling in their graves saying, "Oh my God, I told you there were witches. Look at this place." Because, I mean, truly, it's kind of ironic looking back on things. Now, 19 were hanged, 1 man was pressed to death, 5 people died in jail, and over 150 were arrested on charges of witchcraft. Now, in here, you'll only find the executions with the benches. You will notice these are locust trees planted in the center of this grass area. These are the types of trees that were reported at the gallows. Also, they didn't use any mortar putting these stones together because it represents where a lot of their bodies were shoved. You were not allowed a proper burial if you were executed on charges of witchcraft. So they would often throw you in a massive grave, or they'd shove your bodies in the massive fissures of stones at the gallows. The only one that got a proper burial was Rebecca Nurse, and she is actually buried at the Rebecca Nurse homestead. However, the marker for her is not where she's actually buried. It's a closely guarded secret where her actual burial location on that site is. They don't want anyone trying to exhume her. Now, in the cemetery, it's still pretty cool to check out. There's an original passenger on the Mayflower that's buried here, Captain Richard Mora. We have the Hathorne family. Remember Justice Hathorne from the trials? Giles Corey's first wife is buried here. Now, in the cemetery, one of the most common things I hear is a woman in white walking through. And it's quite frequent. People will see it with their eyes. And she's described as Victorian outfit, always a white dress, always really great posture, and she just kind of fades into nothing. She's shown up on camera, but generally people do see her with their eyes. Now, another really cool haunting is actually in the memorial. And it's right around that tree that kind of predates the memorial, right over there. And around that tree, a lot of people will report hearing a pitter-pattering, like a little child is running around, and there's no child there. Now, the child, she's always reported the same. 4 to 5 years old, white dress, dark shoes, curly brown hair, light eyes, and chubby cheeks. Interesting about this little girl, we aren't the only ones that hear her in this area. I have friends that work at that witch village over there, and they have an exhibit. And one of my friends told me when she works there, they've actually had to go and search the exhibit in the morning and at night because they've heard a kid running through when there should be no children inside. And they've just, assume it's like the little girl who really isn't alive. They just kind of gotten used to the sound now. But it sounds so real. It sounds like a real child is running around in there. I've also sat under this tree during the day between tours. I had crayons and I had candy and I had some colorful stamps. I grabbed whatever random colorful things I could find at work, and I sat under the tree. I spread it out around me, trying to have her come up to me, be interested in what I had around me, have her just want to get curious and look at something. And I did hear, after 25 minutes of sitting there, 25 minutes, pitter-pattering going up to me. Like a kid had just run up to me. Immediately, I was like, "Hello?" And it stopped. After it stopped and I was sure nothing else was happening, I bolted up. There was no child running around on the other side, no child within the general area. It was absolutely abandoned. So I was like, that was weird. And I do think it was her. I've noticed a lot of spirits, they'll come to you when you're very quiet, especially in the Broad Street Cemetery, in this cemetery, the Charter Street. Just settle yourself down, be very quiet and still, and just hang out. A lot of times they'll be curious of you and who you are and why you look the way you do, and that's when I feel like they come up to you. And I think I must have startled her when I said hello, and she wasn't expecting me to acknowledge her. Now, do you guys have questions about anything I haven't answered on the tour as we conclude?